Thank you very much for your time, Casey. It is 10 o'clock Eastern Time, and we have the privilege of having Casey Grant. What's your formal title there, Casey? Is it?
I'm the research director here at the Fire Protection Research Foundation.
Okay. So what I hope our MiAPPA senior facilities officers will get from this is some background on Casey's work group and how they provide the service to the standards technical committee. So go ahead, Casey, it's your show.
Okay, thanks, Mike. The Fire Protection Research Foundation, we exist as a separate 501c3 organization from the National Fire Protection Association, but we are the research affiliate for NFPA, National Fire Protection Association. And our mission is to plan, manage, and facilitate research on behalf of the NFPA mission, which is to make the world safer from fire and related hazards, including electrical and so forth. So the National Fire Protection Association administers approximately 300 codes and standards for the built environment, but most noteworthy among them is the National Electrical Code, NFPA 70. And it's a key part of what we work on here at NFPA and at the Research Foundation. So with that as the backdrop, there are a lot of research projects being requested on different issues, but one that is of particular interest, especially for the user community, is an effort that has been proposed, well, actually a few years back now, but to address the evaluation of electrical feeder and branch circuit loading. So we acknowledge that this is an important topic and it's of special interest to certain constituent groups, including the user community, who potentially has a lot to gain from what could come out of this particular project. But everything we do does steer back in some way, shape, or form and is meant to support the activities of NFPA, including the codes and standards process, where proposals and comments, for instance, are being addressed within the revision process for the National Electrical Code. We are a separate organization. I did start that, mention that at the beginning of my remarks, and that's important because we do keep ourselves some distance during the projects from NFPA. We do not provide direct proposals or comments into the system, but really try to come up with the data and the science that is supportive of what others then do to make proposed code changes or whatever they deem appropriate. So the foundation, we operate by packaging, clarifying what the problems are, what the research projects should be. Sometimes they're small, sometimes they're large projects. Sometimes they're simply literature review or public policy-oriented type studies. Sometimes they're massive empirical test projects. And we've done numerous projects relating to electrical. And by the way, all finished research projects that we do work on are posted on our website at www.nfpa.org/foundation. And there's numerous available projects on numerous topics, most notably in this case, the electrical topics. So with that, we go forward and we do try to provide a neutral platform for work to be done in a credible scientific manner with collaboration and with all involved parties, all interested parties, again in a neutral, unbiased approach to address the problems that are being brought forward and to try to help provide solutions, not only near-term but long-term, in terms of these problems and these problem areas. So the foundation, we achieve this by developing these projects. We generate project prospecti that, and we do have one in the case of this particular topic area on evaluation of electrical feeder and branch circuit loading. And we use that to try to determine our path forward and to clarify funding, because achieving the funding from interested constituents and those who will benefit from the results of the deliverables of the project, that is part of the effort. And here we're trying to clarify the funding to move forward with the phase one. And I do want to point out the logic with the phase one, phase two approach is often oriented around trying to clarify the scope of the issue, lay out the more robust plans for a follow-up phase two that would really go and address the full brunt of the issue. And part of the strategy is not only in terms of clarifying scope technically and so forth, but also just clarifying the funding. And you know, typically when we're able to go forward with the phase one, it allows us to have something in place that we can lean on in terms of pursuing a more robust phase two. So that logic has been used here, and even though we could just go forward with the full project if indeed we could find the funding to do so and people agree that this is an issue needing to be addressed. But the foundation is here to serve as a resource to try to move forward, again, on a neutral platform with these collaborative, independently addressed issues. I do want to point out that we have an open process. We do not do the research ourselves here at the foundation. We act more in the sense of a brokerage, in the sense that we clarify the funding, we clarify the problem, but then we go out through an open bid process and solicit the contractors for the project. And they typically are, well, they usually are either one of three groups, either consulting firms of some kind, universities being the second, and third are national laboratories, including federal government laboratories, not only here in the U.S. but elsewhere. We often have projects that we are funding that are done by NIST, for instance, National Institute of Standards and Technology here in the United States under the Department of Commerce, or NRC Canada, or SP in Sweden, or whatever. And we do, you know, a lot of issues seem like they might have geographic boundaries, but we operate independent of any geographic boundaries. And our intent is to get the right folks to address the issues in the proper way, which is part of our process as we address these research projects. So we do have some information that is available on a website for this particular project, which is at www.nfpa.org/branch-circuit-loading, all one word. And we have a project prospectus that's posted there, and we are looking for funders for this project. And we would, if indeed we can pull together the funding, we would move forward with this activity. So I am happy to answer questions if people get back to us or me. Always looking for ways to work with partners and groups as we move forward on important topics like this one. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of audio breakup here. It could be a connection problem. Are you able to hear me, Casey? You might have to log out and log in. It appears to be okay on my side. It might be on your side, Casey.
Perfectly.
Yeah, you know what you might have to do, Casey, is log out and log in again. So if you don't mind doing that, it usually fixes it. And while you do that, I will explain to my still there? Occasionally you run into these technical problems. I'm going to recommend you log out and log in again.
How do I do that?
And then you did fine. We're still recording, actually. So I'll talk a little bit about where MiAPPA is, but I'm going to have to ask you to log out and log in again. Could you do that, Casey? Yeah, I'm not hearing you.
Let's see there.
Oh, much better. Did you wiggle a wire? Okay, so it's coming back in again. All right. Okay, so what I'll bring up on the screen for my colleagues at MAPPA or MiAPPA is a slide that we had started. So this is who we're talking with right now. Casey will come back in again and he'll be able to see what we're talking about. There you go. Hi, Casey.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, much better. Yeah, that's usually a universal fix. So I started to tell them about, this is a slide that is available to the senior facilities officers there, is that at the moment we use the word complete the funding because we already have we already have 6,000, and we'll go back. Let me get this up all the way here. And please feel free to jump in here, Casey. I might ask you a question or two. So this is our first slide. Let me get that up to full size.
You know, one of the things, Mike, I just want to go back on before you
Sure.
go too far.
Okay.
Is now this project, we came up with a fixed price of $24,000, and we did this. I can't remember how long ago we did this. It's been a
Yeah, it started at right, and this is where we were roughly in the spring. So we received a commitment from Eaton late in October, I believe, so basically a year ago. And we have to thank Paul Kemp and at Notre Dame and Bob Yanello at Eaton Corporation. So this is where we were last year at this time. Obviously, I've been out trying to hustle the remainder of the funding, assuming, and then that's where the 18,000 comes from. Actually, strictly speaking, at that time it was a $20,000 project, but it evidently got raised to 24. So that's why. So is there a problem with the numbers I'm using here,
well,
Casey?
yes, because and I'm just, you know, I need to just clarify that, you know, we do have a fee, and I know when we put this together, you know, we were really trying to figure out how to move forward. But even as time is passing, you know, I get pinged, you know, that our projects, you know, to make sure that we have our fee built into it. And I guess I'm wondering if that is the case here, because I know I'm going to get sort of tapped on the shoulder at some point about that. But part of the issue, Mike, is I know we've been going on for some time, and I'm kind of lost track of where we were, you know, how we came up with that number when we started.
Well, it came from your statement here, which was if we go back to here, and this is I'm using the latest version. The original version was 20,000. So then you came back and said it needed to be this. So we're asking. Remember, we contemplated that we would have 4 funding parties, and that we would be able to. We would. That's when we thought we could have 4 funding parties. We may still have to do that, but in any case, so that's why Eaton kicked in their first quarter, and it was important because it started. Eaton, you know, is a fairly major manufacturer, and they understand the significance of this. And so, anything else to add to that?
Well, yeah, and they've been very participatory. They understand how this all works. In fact, they support other projects. So the one thing I am mentioning to you, and I just want to mention it, it's not something you need to mention to MiAPPA.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, you know, we do have a fee, and so when we actually go out with this project, I think what we were intending here was it would be a $20,000 project, and the, you know, the $4,000 is what the fee is with the foundation's involvement.
Oh, I see. Okay,
yeah.
So it's breaking it down a little bit differently. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just mentioning this to you so you understand that. And you know, we set this early on, and even our fee has gone up a little. But I think we would just simply stick with what we have here. But it's not something MiAPPA needs to know, or anyone else for that matter. But we do. I just want, you know, as we get more involved, that we do have our fee, you know, as part of this.
Okay, so in addition, you're saying, in addition to the $24,000, which was raised from $20,000, there's an additional fee on top of that. Is that right? So you
No, it's already in there.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I think we're still talking about the
Yeah.
same. We're talking about the same thing differently. So I think we're okay.
That's correct. I'm just sort of making sure, you know, I just want to make sure we're open about it. I mean, because
Oh, yeah.
we do have that fee in there. But again, I don't know that it needs to be mentioned to MiAPPA or anybody, you know, at this time. As much as, you know, as we go forward, I like to let people know that, yeah, be advised that when we actually go out with the project, the RFP, you know, we would, in this case, ask for $20,000. It would be a $20,000 project that we're asking.
Oh, I see. So I should have crafted this differently, 20,000 and the $4,000 fee. I get it. All right.
Well, except, no, we generally, you know, in terms of seeking sponsors and funders, we just have a base level. And then as we're talking it through with people, we explain that, you know, be advised, our fee is part of that.
Okay. I think this can be worked out. I'm not.
Yeah. It's really, I'm getting much more sort of into the details than we need to be concerned about here for MiAPPA.
Yeah. What I wanted to make clear to the senior facilities officers at MiAPPA is that this is not a small change that we're proposing. The outcome of this, remember, this is part 2 of a 2-part effort to work on Article 220.2 and 220.14. 220.12, I believe, is the statement about lighting, and these are not unconfirmed statements here. When we talk about taking up to 2/3 off of a size of a transformer, this is likely, when fully realized, I always mention that, when you fully realize what we've done here, then you have the sustainability windfall. And as my colleague Paul Kemp wanted to emphasize, is that we're going to roughly double the achievement of this if we get the change to 2014. I thought I'd give them just a little bit of a look at what the nouns and verbs are going to look like before we got off this call, so they could, when they send this over to their technical people, they're going to see what we're actually doing to the tables. So I hope you'll suffer through that with me, but it does make an important point. Over here, go ahead, Casey.
And Mike, as you go through this, I just want to say that this is exactly what we see in other arenas, and you know, I see groups coming in and just saying flat out, as straight as they can, look, these code changes, assuming that we can get them through, would result in significant, you know, cost savings, and this is of, you know, clear interest to the end user community, and you know, I see this in other arenas, and you know, it's also one of the reasons, you know, I'm a little more hesitant to raise it in some of the other constituent arenas like the manufacturers, because they don't have that same windfall, but the user community, I think it's really potential that they could save a lot of money. So they really should know about it.
Well, we were able to sell this, and I'll give Mark early credit on this, is that we could not sell this alone on a sustainability basis. This was because by taking 2/3 off the kVA out of lighting transformers, you radically reduced the arc flash energy, the incident energy. Your flash hazard, in almost all cases, there are pathological examples where your coordination and your let-through of energy changes, but in almost all cases, especially for that electrician standing on a ladder changing out a ballast, and he shouldn't have been changing it out while it was hot, but he'll do that. You've radically changed that flash energy. That guy is safer. He's going to survive an accident like that. You know, it's very often they get hurt falling over. So this was largely driven by safety considerations, and so that was just the lighting system, what we're trying to do here. So I'm glad you support me on this. We understand that incumbent interest, manufacturers, insurance, and labor may not look as kindly upon this, but for users, and we try to distinguish between end users as the final fiduciary. I'm representing the final fiduciary. We do have concerns about safety, but in general we pay the cost. Our enforcement culture, we are very well financed as far as enforcement goes. We are virtually not financed, except for what we've started here at U of M, to assert the interests of the end user final fiduciary. So when you mentioned that the other manufacturers may not like this, I will give Eaton the credit to understand that this could be it could be a sustainability windfall, because now we're talking about really transforming building power systems if we get the data right.
Yep.
So if I go here, I just wanted people to know that this has been studied in academic settings. So I want to make sure that they know that you don't have unjuried papers. I guess that's the right one. So that's one juried paper, and let's see, there's another one. Oh, I'm sorry. I keep going to my other paper. That actually won an award. I'll say I'm working with award-winning teams. I like to say that's to my credit. So we did get an IEEE award on that one. So here is the lighting. So again, we use the term right siding. So here's the academic treatment here. We also understanding there's one of my former alternate on the NEC, Jim Sanguinetti, did this paper. We're dealing with harmonics specifically, but we're very careful about harmonic issues on transformers. Okay, so that's just the academic treatment. Obviously, we have some trade journal articles, and we've tried to, let me just go to one on NEMA. NEMA's published something on this in their magazine. Let's see, Andre. And this is Joe Andre, a very respected voice in the industry. Again, it's been covered here. And I think there's a couple other papers.
Still there?
I'm still here. Yep, yep. So suffice to say that it's been studied well enough, and we have a solid technical basis. Now, what we're going to be doing, and I'll give you a glimpse of. Are you still able to hear me? Okay. So what I'm able to do here, Casey, is show you what we have on our. We're going to be. It's starting to break up again. This is the table we're going to be, this is what we just changed. We're going to be looking at some of the other parts of the NEC, and if we go to branch, circuit, and feeders here, and this is just the one of the concepts. We believe that we can probably take outlets down from 180 to 120 in some cases. We believe that our classrooms, for example, that are only 15% occupied can probably be taken back. So we're going to have more nuanced information about how designers guide it. So very often these circuits are supplied by what we call receptacle transformers, and as you can see, we're taking a third of them out of this. So that's one example. That's kind of where we're going with this from the technical basis. So going back up into the higher up into this, what this project does. I think we're probably getting close to our coverage on it. You are able to hear me, aren't you, Casey? Looks like I might have lost him again. Boy, we're having a hard time this morning. So, so I want to ask Casey. Okay, so you're breaking. Oh, you're breaking up on mine. You're breaking up again.
I can hear you.
You can hear me well. It's just that I'm not able to hear you, and
I can hear you clearly.
Yeah.
I can hear you clearly.
You can hear me clearly, and on my end, you're breaking up. So, well, maybe let's just try to.
I don't know what's happening, but I can hear you clearly.
Okay. All right. Now I'm getting it right. All right. So it's probably something. All my wires are just fine here. So, okay. Well. So with that much said, I think this is probably enough of an introduction, and not introduction, but it puts the senior facilities officers on a firmer technical basis, so they understand what we're talking about. So how you go through the motions of actually funding this, I'd hope that you could talk a little bit more, Casey, about that, and then we can close the call. Are you able to do that?
Sure. Are you ready?
Yep, go ahead.
The Fire Protection Research Foundation is always looking for the ways to move these projects forward, and the funding is a major part of that. And we work in many different ways, whether it's government grants or consortia or pulling the money together from interested parties. However it's done, we're looking to try to move forward on any of these important issues, like this one here. And so all of our projects have sponsors. The sponsors are involved throughout the project. We do appoint independent advisory panels that provide oversight for these projects. But once we do achieve the funding, we then go forward through an open bid process with a project contractor who's chosen to pursue the project. Again, it could either be a university or a consulting firm or a national laboratory or whoever that is qualified to actually do the project. And but we, the intent is to try to facilitate and move forward on the issue with the providing the deliverables that the project intends to generate.
Okay, so you're seeing on my screen right now, we have one confirmed. We'll be meeting with Eaton, with Paul Kemp next week, by the way, so there'll be a follow-up on this. So a lot of our colleagues know Paul, and we give Eaton a chance to talk about how this helps them also. So I have, I'm not sure if we can get the Graham Institute at the University of Michigan. We had this idea that we might be able to do that, but this lead here, and I have to give my boss credit for this, that, let's see, can we get to MiAPPA here? Looks like I'm being locked out of it. In any case, MiAPPA has the ability, has funding that could help this, and it is in the interest of the state of Michigan, first of all, to get this project forward. Now, there's been questions, as I told you, Casey, about how this only gets us a report and a carefully crafted scope of work. The most important work is one that where do we go for phase 2 funding? So this is a area here. I seem to be missing NIST. Boy, my links are not working at all today. Sorry about that. So we know that NIST could be a source. The Army Corps of Engineers. This was early on. We felt that we could probably get the, I'm trying to at least to get to the Army Corps of Engineers. They're actually on site taking measurements. And we felt that we could coordinate that. And Bob Arno, who's done most of a lot of the Army Corps of Engineers measurement work on, he felt that he could probably get at least some funding from the Army Corps of Engineers to fund some of the travel that might be required. So that's another area we're going to try to be as, I know that $1.5 million is probably on the high end for your projects. Is that fair to say, Casey?
Well, actually, no, it is on the higher end, but we do projects in excess of that.
Okay. All right, so it is on the higher end. When I was there in July, it looked like we were, I was asking for too much. So in any case, spend $1.5 million to save $1.5 billion a year to just one industry alone, it seems to me a no-brainer, but it's you got to convince a lot. You spend more of your time convincing people than actually doing the work and getting the thing done. So, in any case, so we're looking forward. We're looking ways to make social media more effective, and that's what I wanted to cut over to this other part. We have, I set up a LinkedIn site, and I have to tell you that it's still, I only have 2 members, and Casey, I'm hoping that you'll be one of the members of the group. So I did post this maybe about a month or so ago, and I didn't get any response from it. And obviously you're not gonna, because I've only got 2 members part of the group, and I don't want to oversaturate people's social media. Also on Twitter, you'll notice that I just tweeted this morning. Again, you have to fight with many other, not fight, but you have to compete with other posts, but it makes it a little bit more politically visible. So now you have a tweet. I'm not sure, this might be your first tweet for any of your projects. Do I have that honor of being your first tweeter?
From externally, yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. So there it is. We just made it politically visible. We'll see how many people respond to that. My colleague, I invited my colleague Wai Zhen from the University of Texas because he is, let me see if I can get his Wai Zhen Lee, where is he, Wai Zhen Lee? Okay, so Wai Zhen Lee is one of I'll say, undisputed, one of the more respected voices in our industry. And he's actually, he runs a lab there, and he's a person who could probably bring some resources to bear. And he says, you know, Mike, we might be able to get some of the information you need off of smart grid information. So that's why I invited him. I didn't give him a lot of notice, but when we start getting into phase 2, when we start talking about a phase 2, that we might consider how much smart grid information is available to us. Just as it was easy enough for us to use utility bills to get our first change to 22012, the lighting table, we might be able to get deeper into on the other, what we'll call the other side, the building premises side, and not in every installation. So that's a possibility. So we might be able to actually use smart grid data to bring this phase 2 funding down. So that's another discussion. Right now I'm focusing on just getting the thing scoped. I'm grateful that my boss, Rich Robin, was able to persuade some contribution from MiAPPA. We don't know what that amount will be. Whatever deficit is there, if any, you can be assured that I'll be on the hunt to get this project completed. So what, you're a year and a half later, it's not to say that I focused on it entirely, but I haven't let it go cold either. So I'm optimistic. My hope is that we can have a check in your hand before the year is out, or before their fiscal year is out. And I'll get those details from my boss. And that's pretty much my side of the story. Would the payment be made to you then, to NFPA Research Foundation?
Well, it would be to the Fire Protection Research Foundation, which is a separate 501c3 organization.
Okay, good. So I want them to hear that here. So, all right. All right. And of course, I think MiAPPA is entitled to get the political visibility for making this happen. There's ways you can do that. And we'll put it up on our websites and let them know that the University of Michigan is working on behalf of the industry as a whole, using its skill set and expertise to try to leverage this value on behalf of our industry. So, I'm pretty well talked out. Anything closing, any final reflections, Casey?
Only to say that we see numerous important topics like this one that have clear benefit towards certain parts of our constituency, and in this case we think it has strong merit and should have a lot of interest among the user community especially. And we do think that this project ultimately could result in significant cost savings and so forth. So once again, you know, it's whatever we can do to help facilitate to try to bring good science along to support important changes proposed to the National Electrical Code and other important documents like the NEC.
Well said. Okay. Well, you have a point of view which is very rich in dimensions and experience, and I appreciate your time, Casey.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, I'll see you on the email. I'll keep you in the loop. You'll see this. For your review here very shortly. And I hope you have a good day.
Sounds good. Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.